I'm in an old chemical plant in West Virginia. That's why I'm wearing this. I'm still waiting on my approval from the Walking Dead producers, so I found you the next best thing. This is the best replica that John Sanders, prop master of The Walking Dead, has ever seen. And it's built by one of The Walking Dead's greatest fans.
I love The Walking Dead more than any show I've seen in years. There's something about the show. I'm really big on post-apocalyptic movies and TV shows and things like that. When I saw The Walking Dead and I saw they had a Triumph on it, I had to have it. Since I was a kid, I've loved motorcycles, but I never had a Triumph. When I was in high school, I used to go in and look at them and pine over them and wish I could have one. When I saw The Walking Dead, I thought, now's the time. I'm old enough, I can afford it. So I'm going to see if I can build this thing. So I set about to build it. Everybody ought to be clear about this. Daryl's bike is not a Harley, it's a Triumph. I had a guy try to trade me a Harley for my Triumph chopper, and I said, who's going to pay me to set on a Harley? The first time I saw it, the very first show that I saw, I wasn't sure what it was. The pilot, you know, the bike looked different than it does now. In the pilot episode, there was certain emblems and things, the Nazi stuff was missing off of it, and it was just fuzzy in the background. My understanding, this bike was bought off Craigslist, was never meant to be part of the show on a permanent basis, wasn't meant to be a character in the show. It was actually kind of really beat up, didn't run very well, rusty. It was probably built in the 70s or early 80s because all the parts on it are old vintage stuff. And that's why it's so hard to build a replica, because it's hard to find those things.
I want to tell you about a game that I've come to enjoy. And it's inspired by classic RPGs of the 90s that I grew up with, like Command & Conquer and Age of Empires. Vikings War of Clans. It's free to download, and I think you should give it a shot. So if you like Vikings and war strategy games, then this game is for you. And what keeps it exciting is that over 20 million players are constantly changing the field and the economy and how the game is played. So you're never going to run out of ideas or things to do. And it features great characters with amazing assets. Vikings War of Clans is free to download from my custom link down below. And not only that, by clicking my link, you'll get 200 free coins and a protective shield.
My bike is much better than the original. Matter of fact, they replaced the original. In season 4, there's a second Walking Dead chopper, which hardly has any screen time. It's the one they based all the toys after, unfortunately. Has an electric starter, but mine is like the one that's had the most screen time. It's the one they started out with, and it's in a lot better shape. It usually kicks on first, or starts on first kick, sometimes second kick.
Whoa, that one hurt my back.
But, you know, it's a good running bike. It's all rebuilt, everything's new. My biggest problem with it is it looks too good. I have to constantly add fake rust and dirty it up.
Oh. I like bikes. I've ridden a lot of bikes. But I've never ridden British controls. Oh, this bike is awesome. I don't know if you're actually going to hear me over the wind noise.
first decided to build the bike, I wasn't sure. I'd never built a bike before. I've had bikes before, and I've customized them, added bolt-ons and stuff. Never built anything like this from scratch. So it was kind of a challenge to do it. First thing I found was the seat. The seat is like a 25 or 30-year-old aftermarket Harley unit they usually put on Sportsters. And I went on eBay and there was the seat. And I went nuts on that. I almost hate to tell you this on camera, but I put a $900 bid on it. I got it for 130 bucks. But I didn't want to lose that seat because I decided I was going to build this chopper. When I found the seat, I said, I've got to build the chopper. Because there's the seat, it's the exact same one. Well, it's a pre-69 motor. I don't know exactly on the show what year they have, but it has to be 69 or earlier. Mine's a 65, so it's the right type motor. It's on a 70 frame. As it turns out, British Cycle Works out of Canada had one that was very, very close to the original. Matter of fact, I managed to talk to the guy who built the second Walking Dead bike, and before he quit talking to me, because I don't think he wanted to give away the secrets, maybe he kind of chickened out, but he told me that that's where they got the hardtail for the second Walking Dead bike, and that's the one I bought. Honda front end. It's a CB 750. I think it's like a 73 or something. But Honda rear end. It's called an Invader wheel. I had an awful time with that. The first one I got, paid a lot of money for it, 8-spoke. Daryl's bike is a 10-spoke. They are rarer than hen's teeth to find. The details of the bike were very important to me. The Walking Dead bike has certain tears in places and tape across the front of it, and I tore it in all the same places. I think there's one extra tear that was already there. I couldn't do anything about that. But every place else where there was a tear on the bike, I took a razor blade and a picture and carefully tried to put the same tear and the same stuffing coming out of it and everything. What I had to do is do screen captures, look on the internet for pictures, look at Triumphs, you know, anything I could find. 6 months for the research and everything. It was hard at first. It's easier now. There's a lot more pictures. Financially, I mean, I started out, I had a $5,000 budget, and right off the bat I spent about $8,000. And then I've spent more on it since then. I don't know, I lost track. It's probably around 10 or a little more. To me, it's a little hard to ride. The bike is a little bit of a monster to ride. It's better now that I put the original tires. The tires I have on it are the first season tires. Then they went to the knobbies. So I put the knobbies on it. When you talk about how is it to ride, unrideable with those knobbies. Now, as far as the bike straight line, it's not bad, as long as you don't hit a pothole. We got plenty of them in West Virginia. And for an old guy like me, that transfers all that shock right through your spine, you know.
I don't know how Norman Reedus actually rode this thing over bumps, being that it was made as an off-road chopper. This thing is pretty hard over the bumps.
But just on a straightaway, you know, out on a nice smooth road, it's got a lot of power, it feels good, it's not uncomfortable, it's a nice bike. I was very nervous when I first built the bike about the Nazi emblems. Certainly don't agree with anything the Nazis did, and the SS was probably the worst of the Nazis. There's 2 symbols on the bike, the SS symbols and Death's Head symbol, probably to represent what Merrill was, kind of a racist redneck. And a lot of that symbolism goes clear back to right after World War II, when soldiers came back from the war and they had a lot of Nazi memorabilia, and a lot of them were rebelling against straight society, you know. They had what we call PTSD, and they came back and they bought these Harleys dirt cheap. Some of them were old military bikes, and they'd strip them down. They'd chop them. They'd take all the parts off of them and bring them down to their essentials, you know, faster, wild looking, and they used Nazi emblems on them. Some of them wore Nazi helmets they brought back from the war as their crash helmet. And I'm sure that's why The Walking Dead added those symbols, to try to fit into that genre of you know, those white power, Nazi, racist groups, you know, and that's who Merrill was. When I first built the bike, I couldn't wait to show it to people. Unfortunately, all my friends that I ride with and hang around with, only a couple of them watch the show. So I wanted to show the bike to someone. So we'd heard of Comic-Cons. Wizard World had one in Columbus. When I first called the organizer, I told him I just wanted a space to show the bike. And he said, well, you know, you need to charge something, you know. And I said, well, what, $5 maybe to sit on it or something? He said, oh, you could get at least 10. So I said, okay. Some people get so excited, it doesn't even matter to them, it's not the actual bike. I've seen girls get on the bike and cry. Janet's my partner, and we've been together for 37 years. There's no way I could have done all this without Janet. I'm on Social Security now. I worked a lot on my own, so I didn't have an actual retirement. That bike was $10,000. Janet financed the bike, and I promised I would pay her back, and I did. After every show we went to, I would just say, okay, you know, give me $100 out of it or something, and you just keep the rest. So, and she goes to the shows with me, and it's hard work. It takes, with the new set that we have, it takes about 3.5, 4 hours to set it up. My friends don't understand it. They can't figure out how I got this woman that was so good, you know. Not only does she help finance the whole project, but then she goes and works these booths with me. She's still working full time at the university. After Walker Soccer 2013, my daughter put together this book as a surprise for me. And this is, you know, where my grandson and I first really kind of bonded around this whole thing. We had such a good time. It says, Dadder, Kellen, and I had a great time with you and Janner at Walker Stalker 2013. Thanks for raising me to be weird enough to enjoy this kind of thing. Happy birthday, love, Mel Kid. That's my daughter, Melinda. Cosplaying is something I got into through the bike. And what happened was, I'm an old guy with whitish looking hair. You know, after the first couple shows, everybody kept saying, you ought to cosplay Herschel. So I sort of, at first, half-heartedly did it. I kind of put a little bit of white stuff in my hair. The reaction was pretty big. I got really into it. Now I got like Herschel's whole death costume. And it was just a blast, you know. And I couldn't walk 5 feet without somebody wanting to get a picture with me. It was really weird. It's like you're actually Scott Wilson. The two people that really got me into the cosplay more than anything, though, was my daughter and my partner. I mean, Janet and Mindy, that's my daughter, they talked me into doing it. They said, hey, you get more people in the booth. I mean, everybody thinks you look like Herschel anyway. I was very reluctant to do it. I felt kind of silly at my age. When I was about 6, I was Davy Crockett. I had the whole works, the coonskin cap, old Betsy, the whole buckskins, the whole works. I had an old chicken coop up on the hill that everybody in town called the Alamo. And then I was Bat Masterson, and I was all these things. My mother used to say David always wanted to be somebody else besides David. So I suppose that part of me always did like doing this kind of thing, dressing up for Halloween and all. It's just when you get older, you know, you think it's silly. It's not. It's a lot of fun. Everybody else is doing it. It's just fun.
So if you like bikes or don't like bikes, leave me a comment, let me know. But be sure to like, share, subscribe. But most of all, share it, because work like this needs to be seen.
We did a photo op with Norman Reedus, me and my girlfriend. She put it on her Facebook page and cut me out, photoshopped me out. This Reedus thing knows no age boundary.
I can dub over anything underneath this. I could go back home and just record a whole different intro and just say blah, blah, blah. I think he just took a shit.